Hello everyone, a very good morning or a good afternoon. So my name is Vivin Satyan and thank you very much for joining me in today's webinar. So thank you for finding some time amidst your busy schedule for joining this webinar. I hope you find this session useful. So I work as a technical consultant in the Active Directory team of AD Solutions, and I've been with ManageEngine for over 5 years now. Now my responsibility as a technical consultant is I deploy Active Directory applications in a variety of organizations across the globe. And apart from deploying Active Directory applications, I also take part in seminars and conferences and evangelize Active Directory applications. So with that little experience in hand, I have now created 7 tips that could better help you manage your Active Directory infrastructure. Now trust me, these 7 tips are some of the most common challenges that the administrators face when it comes to managing Active Directory. Now the cool part about the session is going to be, I'm going to show you ways by which you can manage Active Directory without using the native methods, or to be more precise, without using PowerShell or without using any other complex technologies. So get the most out of your Active Directory infrastructure just with a few mouse clicks. So that's going to be the agenda for today's session. Alright, I hope my voice is loud and clear and all of you can see my screen. If you have any issues or if you have any questions, please feel free to make use of the chat option available on your screen and let me know. I do my best to get back to you instantly. If not, I will definitely get back to you via emails. Alright, so 7 tips for simplifying Active Directory management. Let's get started here. Now, to make sure that we better understand these 7 tips, what I've done is I've split those 7 tips into 3 parts. So part 1 is all about gaining insight on Active Directory. Now all of us as administrators or as IT technicians would like to get information from Active Directory somehow or the other. So you might use PowerShell or VB scripts, or you would be using any other Microsoft tools or any third-party tools for that matter. So I am going to show you ways by which you can retrieve information, vital information from Active Directory without using any of these complex methods. So that would be part 1. Part number 2. When it comes to Active Directory, so it's not just administrators anymore, because you have a lot of people involved in Active Directory. So you have your help desk staff, you have your HR, you have the IT technicians, and also IT administrators. So an IT administrator would always want to delegate a part of the Active Directory management operations to someone along the chain. So I'm going to show you an effective delegation model by which you don't disturb a user's Active Directory permission just because you want them to do something in Active Directory. So I'm going to show you a non-invasive delegation model that will help you delegate tasks effectively. And part number 3, save the best for the last. So it's all about automation. Now I'm going to show you ways by which you can automate stuff in Active Directory, like user provisioning. All the organizations that deploy Active Directory have this common requirement of creating user accounts in Active Directory. So I'm going to show you ways by which you can automate the process. And also, when you are an administrator for an Active Directory infrastructure, one of your direct or indirect responsibilities is to make sure that your Active Directory is free from stale accounts. And what do I mean by stale accounts is you have users who have not logged into your Active Directory infrastructure for the last 365 days, but their account is still active in Active Directory. And you have computer objects that are not being used for over 2 years, and they are still in Active Directory in an enabled state. So from a security point of view, this can be a loophole for intruders to get into your network. So what are you going to do about these stale accounts? Let's automate Active Directory cleanup. So these are the 3 parts which I will be discussing in the next 45 to 60 minutes. And as I said, any questions, please make use of the chat window and I'd be more than happy to answer those questions to the best of my ability. Alright, so let's get started with part one here. So how do we gain insights on Active Directory without using complex tools? And the tip number one for this part is going to be nested group membership. So if you have ever come across the situation, I'm pretty sure that you can relate to whatever I'm saying right now. Have you ever wondered how a normal help desk account who's supposed to be resetting passwords in Active Directory is now somehow or the other able to delete accounts in Active Directory as well? Because you have no idea how a normal help desk account can delete accounts in Active Directory. So you did not give the technician the ability to do that through group membership, but somehow or the other the user now has the ability to delete other accounts in Active Directory. Right? One common mistake that administrators make is administrators usually investigate only the direct group membership of the user and forget about the nested group membership. So tip number one is please make sure that you investigate the nested group membership of the user account as well. And to better explain the situation, right, so I'm talking about the account ITHTT right here. Alright, so this account is supposed to be creating user accounts in Active Directory, or let's say accessing certain servers and do nothing else, right? Just basic actions, but somehow or the other this technician is now able to delete accounts in Active Directory. So if I use the Microsoft tools, all I can do is I just open up the user's property and I go straight to the member of tab and I try to check the group membership. Alright, let's investigate. Okay, so the user is directly a member of 4 groups, and this seems to be a basic group, another basic group, basic, and a very basic group. So nothing seems wrong here. But what the Microsoft console is missing is it does not give you information whether these groups are in turn linked to any other top-level security groups in your Active Directory infrastructure. For instance, the ITHTT account provisioning group. This is supposed to be a very basic group in Active Directory that is supposed to be creating accounts. That's it. But let's just investigate the group membership of this specific group, which is the nested groups, right? For which I go to the OU in which I have the group, and then here we go. I have the group right here. I do a double click on the group and I go to the members. I see that the technician is right here, but I'm trying to verify the group membership of this specific group, so I go to the member of tab. The culprit is right here. So the basic group in Active Directory, which is the ITHTT account provisioning group, is in turn a member of the domain admins group, which is a top-level security group in your infrastructure. So whenever you're trying to investigate permissions of a user account, it is very important to keep in mind the nested group membership as well. How do we do that? And that's when a tool like ADManager Plus comes into picture. And if you have not downloaded the tool yet, please go to ADManagerPlus.com and you can download a fully functional trial version from the site with all the features, right? And then you can get the benefits out of it. Alright, so coming back to nested group membership. So you have a lot of functions built into this application, and for our first part we are just going to be focusing on the reports. So the report that I'm trying to generate is I'm trying to find out the exact group membership of a user account that includes the direct group membership and also the nested group members. I go to AD reports and then I have a separate category here to investigate nested objects. I have nested reports and I'm trying to find out the actual group membership of a specific user. So I go to groups for users. This is the report. And I just pick and choose the technician. I just hit select and this gives me the list of Active Directory objects that I have in my domain. I can simply search for the account. The user is right here. I've already chosen the user. I hit OK, and then when I hit generate, Now this is not only going to give me the direct group membership of the user account but also the nested group members. For instance, if I just have a look at the group membership of the account here, the ITHTT account, now this console, the Microsoft console, tells me that the user is a part of just 4 basic groups. Whereas in reality, the user is a part of 8 groups. And how do the additional 4 groups come into picture? It's through nested group membership. So if you have a close look at the report, you have the direct group membership of the user account listed here, and the report would also give you the nested group membership. As you can see here, it states that this basic group which the user is directly a member of is in turn linked to the domain admins group. You can see that the user is right here, right? So this is how you investigate the permissions of a user account in Active Directory without using PowerShell. Alright, so I'm just trying to rephrase what I just said. Whenever you're trying to investigate the permissions of user accounts in Active Directory, please check for nested groups as well. Tip number 2, something related to permission cleanup, right? So this permission cleanup is something related to shared folders in your Active Directory infrastructure. I'm pretty sure that 100% of all the organizations that deploy Active Directory has a shared folder, something like this, right? You have a server and you have a folder that you have shared with only a specific set of people so that they have access to certain user critical data or business critical data, right? And you made sure that the data is accessible only by a specific group. But the problem arises when there are too many administrators in your Active Directory infrastructure, because you are not the only one who has control over the permissions on this specific folder, right? So you are back from a vacation and you are trying to verify whether the permissions of this specific shared folders are still in place. Right? So you do a right click, you go to properties, and then you go to security. You try to check whether whether only the appropriate users have access to the folder, and you have no idea how these many users have gained access to the confidential piece of information that is in one of your servers, right? So if you have such shared folders with user critical or business critical information, you as an administrator might be wanting to do 2 things on a regular basis. The first step would be to analyze the existing permissions on such shared folders, and at any given point in time, if you find that there are inappropriate users who have access to this data, you need to perform a permission cleanup immediately. So that's the tip that we are going to be discussing about. So how do you perform a permission cleanup of your shared folders that has business critical data and user critical data? I'm going to show you the Microsoft way of doing it, and then I'm going to show you the ADManager Plus way. Alright, so the Microsoft way of cleaning up permissions. Step 1, analyzing permissions. Step 2, removing inappropriate permissions. Step 1, do a right click, go to properties, go to security, select the user account, verify what are the permissions that this specific user account has on the folders, go to advanced, analyze the permissions in detail, and then decide whether or not this user should be removed from the list. And you need to be doing that for all the entries in your access control list, right, for that specific folder. So now that's a lot of manual work. Now adding more fuel to this fire is, this is just not about one specific folder. If you open up this folder, you have child folders within the parent folder. So you'll also have to verify the permissions on these folders just to make sure whether inheritance is set to true or false. So you go to security and then verify the permissions on that folder as well. So in order to avoid all these complex stuffs, right? So what you can do is you can perform two simple actions using an application like ADManager Plus and remove inappropriate permissions. Alright, so let's do the same steps using ADManager Plus, analyzing permissions and removing inappropriate ones. To analyze permission, I go to AD Reports. I have a separate category for NTFS permissions. I go to that, NTFS Reports, and I'm trying to check the permissions or verify the permissions on a specific folder, on a shared folder that is in one of my servers. I go to Permission for Folders. I select the file server in which I have the confidential data or the corp data. There you go. I have selected the right folder for which I'd like to get the list of actual permissions in real time. And since this parent folder has 5 subfolders or 10 subfolders within it, I'd also like to get or query the permissions on all those subfolders as well. So this tool gives you an option to query the levels of subfolders that you want and then hit generate. So this is going to be a live query which gives you the list, the consolidated list of permissions that your users or groups have on the selected corp data. And if you'd like to drill down permissions, all you need to do is just hit advanced and you get the complete permissions here. This gives you a clear idea of whether or not the permissions is being inherited by the parent folder. By the child folder from the parent folder, right? So now that you have analyzed the permissions on the existing share, our second step would be to clean up inappropriate permissions. Okay, so in our example, I have these many users who have access to corp data, and I don't want that. I just want the finance managers to be having access to corp data. So what I have to do is I have to define the permission for finance managers and at the same time remove the rest of the entries from accessing the corp data folder, right? So we are going to do that right now. Step 2, I go to Active Directory Management because we are trying to manage permissions here. That falls under the Active Directory Management division or category. And then I go to File Server Management. We are trying to modify an existing NTFS permission. So I go to Modify NTFS Permission. I select the same folder right here, which is corp data. Okay, corp data is right here. I've selected the folder and I just want to make sure that the finance managers have access to it. So it's not users, it's in groups. So I go to groups, I search for finance managers. There you go. And I hit OK. And I can decide what level of permissions should the finance managers group have on the selected folder. Should it be a full control or just read access or any other permission choice that I'd like to make. So for now I'm just going with read access. And since the parent folder has a couple of subfolders within it, I can even define the level of permissions that the group has on the selected folder, which is the child folders. Alright, so I define the permissions here and it's going to be an allow permission and the job is half done. Now why do I say that the job is half done? Is because I have now defined who should have access to corp data, but I have not removed the inappropriate users, and I have 30 or 40 inappropriate entry on the permission list of the specific folder. So how do I wipe out all of them at once? This checkbox here does the job for you. So I select the checkbox and this says remove all existing permissions and apply only the above ones. So I select the checkbox and I hit modify. So the minute I hit modify, now only the finance managers will have read access over the corp data folder and the rest of the entries will be wiped out. As simple as that. Alright, so that's how you perform a permission cleanup on confidential data that you have stored in your infrastructure in the form of shared folders. Alright, tip number 3 is finding out users who have never logged on to your Active Directory infrastructure, because that's going to be a security issue. Let me tell you how this can turn out to be a security issue, right? So most of the organizations have this common practice of creating 5 accounts or 3 accounts that are supposed to be joining your organization tomorrow or next week. And what happens is sometimes when you create 5 Active Directory accounts, hoping that they would be joining next week, and out of 5 users, only 4 have accepted the offer. 1 user has not accepted the offer, but the problem does not lie in that. So when you create 5 Active Directory accounts on a specific day, the first thing an administrator would do is 90% of the administrators would create accounts in Active Directory with a common password, and then they would force users to change the password or customize the password as soon as they log into their PCs the first time. So that's how normal Active Directory user provisioning works. Common password for the first time, and then force users to change the password as soon as they log on. Right? Now, what if a user does not log into your Active Directory infrastructure? And what that means is the user account still has the common password, right? Now, if I'm an intruder, I would be looking at 2 things in order to get into your network. I would try to crack the password of the newly created accounts because I'm not interested in the accounts that are active. I'm trying to check for the accounts that are recently created and have not logged in even once, because once I gain access to some part of your Active Directory infrastructure, then I can reach out to top level admin accounts, right? So it is very important for an administrator to perform this check on a regular basis. Please make sure that you find out users who have never logged into your Active Directory infrastructure. You can very well make use of the standard saved queries that Microsoft offers you, but this query is going to be a manual query which you'll have to define, and when you define such a query, please make sure that you have 2 main attributes in that query. The first attribute would obviously be the last logon or the last logon timestamp attribute, and the second attribute which I want you to focus on is the when created attribute, because as an intruder I would be interested in the when created attribute. And if the when created attribute for a user account is less than 25 days or is less than 30 days, and if the last logon timestamp or the last logon is going to be 0, I know for sure that the user account has not logged into Active Directory even once, and the account was created 30 days ago. So I have a good chance of getting into your network if I crack the password of that specific account, because no one is going to know, right? So how do you create a report of users who have not logged into your Active Directory infrastructure, and at the same time including the when created attribute? Well, you can very well make use of PowerShell in order to get the information out. The only thing with PowerShell is you'll have to target the query against all the domain controllers that you have in your infrastructure. If you have 5 domain controllers, then you'll have to make sure that the query is targeted to all those 5 domain controllers. If you have 50 domain controllers, then the query just multiplies. So in order to overcome all these complexities here, again we go back to ADManager Plus. We are trying to actually get information from Active Directory that falls under the reports category. I go to reports, then I have a separate category for log on right here. If you could just have a look at the screen, I have log on reports, and I'm trying to find out the users who have never logged on into my Active Directory infrastructure, and I generate. So the speciality about the report is, as you can see here, this queries all the domain controllers that you have configured in your domain, be it 2 domain controllers or 200 domain controllers. The application is going to query all of them instead of you writing a PowerShell script, and then it's going to give you a consolidated list which has not only the 2 main attributes that we were talking about, which is the last logon time and the when created attribute, but this has something very, very important. This also has something called account status, which reveals whether the account is still in an enabled state or not. Alright, so if you just have a look at this account right here, the name of the account is Eric, and the account was created somewhere in March of 2016, and the user has not logged in even once because the last logon time is 0, but the account is still in an enabled state. Now, what can you do with accounts like this, right? So to make the job easy for a security administrator or for an IT administrator, just select the account. You can either delete the account if that's something that you want, or if you do not wish to go to that extent, you can disable the account, or simply go to more actions and then probably move the account to to a different OU, something like a quarantine, right? So this application offers you multiple ways by which you can get reports from Active Directory, and not only that, it takes things one step further. It also allows you to manage the accounts from the report itself, which is very crucial from a security standpoint, right? So finding out users and then managing them if they are in an enabled state. So that was tip number 3. Tip number 4 of 7. This is a pretty interesting tip, because I have seen a lot of administrators who say, yes, we do this, okay? And that is finding out whether there are any privileged accounts in your Active Directory infrastructure with unchanged passwords, because you know it as a security principle. If the user accounts, a normal user account is going to be changing their password once in every 60 days or 45 days, it is very important that an administrator changes his or her password once in every 30 days. Because if an intruder gets hold of the password or cracks the password of one of those administrative accounts, that basically is going to be giving away the keys to your kingdom, right? So you will have to make sure that there are no privileged accounts in your Active Directory infrastructure with unchanged passwords. And some organizations deploy or enforce strict password policies for users in the organization, but exclude the administrative account for some reason from such strong policies. And one common reason is they have no idea of where the account is configured. So they fear that if they are going to change their password by logging into the PC now, in the next 5 minutes, another service running on one of those servers could break. And that could lead to business disruption for at least 15 to 30 minutes until unless we have a proper backup plan in place. So we have a free tool with Manage Engine, which is the Service Account Manager free tool. You can probably Google it, and then you would get access to the free tool that's going to give you the exact location of where or which server your account is configured as a service. So whenever you force an admin account to change the password, you can be assured that the account is configured as a service in these many servers, and you'll have to update the passwords there as well before it becomes a problem, right? So once again, do not forget the free tool. The name of the free tool is Service Account Management Tool, and that's part of the Manage Engine free tools offering. You can probably Google it. If not, just drop an email to me or ping me in chat, and I'd be more than happy to share the link of the free tool. All right, so once you have an idea of where your account is configured as a service, or in which server is your account configured, you can very well then force users or admin users who have not changed their password in the last 90 days or 120 days. All right, so step 1, find out such users who have not changed their password. Step 2, force them to change their password. Let's go back to ADManager Plus. AD reports. I have a dedicated section right here just for passwords. Go to password reports, and I have password unchanged users. So this basically gives you the list of users who have not changed their password in the last n number of days. So you can very well specify your custom date right here. I'm going with 120 days. I'm trying to find out the users who have not changed their password in the last 120 days. This is definitely a security threat, right? Because users not changing the password for 120 days doesn't look good. And if you have any admin accounts in the list, that's an alarm. So I hit generate. This is a live query. Alright, so I have close to 76 users who have not changed their password in the last 120 days, and I have the day since password set attribute right here. So some of the users have not changed their password for over 2 years or 3 years for now, 3 years right now. So that's definitely not something an administrator would want, or an auditor would want to see, or a security admin would want to see. So now that you have this report in place, you can very well gain insight on users' SID. Alright, so for instance, I have an account called James Bond right here, but the SID of this specific account, James Bond, ends with 500. And you very well know that any account whose SID is going to end with 500 is going to be an administrator account. So this is the actual administrator account which has been renamed to James Bond. Alright, and the account has not changed the password for for more than a year. Oh, sorry, for more than 3 years, right? So, and then the flag is set to never expires, and you don't want that to be happening in your infrastructure. So what you can do here is you can probably select such privileged accounts and then force them to change password immediately at next logon from the console itself. Alright, or if you feel that the users are not going to do it, you can very well reset their password. So we give you two options. We give you an option to tell the users, hey, you haven't changed your password for these many days, it's better you go ahead and update it right now. Or you can very well reset their password and then inform them your password has been reset. So we have various ways by which you can get the list of users who have not complied to the security standards in your organization, and then force them to change passwords. So it's very crucial that you get a list which makes sense, something like this, and then force your users to change password. So tip number 4 was find out users who have not changed their passwords in the last n number of days, and make sure that you track the admin accounts using the list, and you set the flag so that they change their password immediately as soon as they log into the PCs. So that brings me to the end of the first part here. Part 2 is delegation. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to delegate stuff using the Microsoft way. So most of the administrators have this habit. So if you are going to delegate stuff in Active Directory for a user account, let's say you have the HTT account and you want this HTT account to be able to reset password. So one way of delegating actions in Active Directory is you open up the user's property, go to the member of tab, and then you add the users to the right group, right? So let's say help desk. So you add the users to the right group, and so that the user can now log into your Active Directory infrastructure and then probably reset password or unlock user accounts based on the permissions that the group has. Alright, so this is one way of doing stuff. And the second way of doing stuff is, or delegating actions in Active Directory, is using the delegation of control wizard in Active Directory. So let's say you have an OU and you want a user to be resetting password in Active Directory for the other accounts belonging to the OU. So you do a right click on the OU. You have something called Delegate Control Wizard given to you by Microsoft. You go to the Delegation of Control Wizard, hit Next, select the user account for whom you'd like to delegate actions to, and then you do a check names. You have the user account right here. Hit OK, Next, and then you have an option to select the default list that Microsoft has given you, or if you're not satisfied with the default list of actions, you can very well create your custom task You hit next, and then you select a couple of folders here, couple of checkboxes here that you think might be relevant with regards to this delegation, and you hit next. Just give them read access. You hit next, finish. Now, the problem with this type of delegation is you would not have an eagle's eye view of what is being delegated. So if I need to find out, or if I need to cross-check whether I gave this user the right to delete user accounts in Active Directory, the only way by which you can do it is you do a right click, you go to Properties, you go to Security, and then select the user account, verify their permissions by going to Advanced, and a lot of process, right? So this is not going to tell you who actually delegated a specific right to this user account on this specific OU. The only way by which you can get that information is by going to the event viewer. And the event viewer has its own challenges, which we'll be talking in a later part of maybe a next session. So by the time you go to the event viewer, the events might have been overwritten. So there are a few challenges with this delegation model, but the glaring challenge here is you do not have a clear view of what is being delegated or whether the delegation is even right in the first place. All right? And if you are assigning or adding users to groups for basic actions, as days pass by, users would be part of multiple groups, and then you have the concept called nested group membership. So in due course of time, within a matter of months, a normal user account in Active Directory would somehow or the other should have access to maybe your schema or the enterprise admins group. So that will be a prelude to disaster. So you will have to make sure that we overcome such ineffective delegation models. And the ways by which you can overcome ineffective delegation models is by having a checklist like this. So you'll have to have clarity of rights on what is being delegated, and you'll have to make sure that you impose precise restrictions. You don't want a help desk technician to be resetting the password of your CEO, or you do not want your help desk technician to be seeing accounts that are part of a different organizational unit. And when they are done with the job, if it's going to be a temporary delegation, the delegation should be easy to revoke. Now just now we saw that the delegation that we performed using the delegation of control wizard is not that easy to revoke. And the second thing is handling native permissions. So adding too many groups to your user accounts just so that they can perform actions in Active Directory isn't always a good practice, because over a period of time the group membership of the user account becomes a bit clumsy. And what is more important is you will have to have an ability to track the changes in terms of the changes done by the technicians and also the delegations done by other admins on the selected technicians. So you'll be able to have all these items in hand, check off all these items in hand before you think about a proper delegation model. And we clearly saw some of the shortcomings that you have with the delegation of control wizard or group-based delegation. To overcome all this, ADManager Plus has something called as task-based delegation or role-based delegation. So we have something called as controllers within the application. This is nothing but a bunch of actions put together in a very understandable format, something like this. You as an administrator can then decide the exact actions that you are going to delegate just by selecting the checkboxes. And once you're done selecting the checkboxes, you give the role, which is a collection of actions, a specific name, and then map the specific role to that technician. Now what's the advantage? We are still doing the same thing. The only thing is we have better clarity. But other than the clarity part, what is the advantage that an administrator gets by following the delegation model of this application? The best part here is The user will only be able to perform the actions that you have delegated to him or her only when they are in the application. The minute the user signs out of the application, their Active Directory permissions will still remain unaltered. And what that means is we are not elevating a user's permission in Active Directory just because of this role, right? So this role holds good for the user account only when they are logged into the application. So that's how you create roles and then make the process of delegation easier. But that's just the first half. The second half is how do you track the changes made by the technicians to whom you have delegated certain actions. We have answers for that as well. We have a built-in tracking system that tracks all the changes done by the users of this application to your Active Directory infrastructure. So you have 20 technicians, all of them performing 20 different actions. So you'd like to know who did what, when, and where. This tracking system will give you the answer. And also you have something called Admin Audit Report. Now this gives you visibility into who modified the delegation principle for a specific user, who elevated the access rights for a specific technician, or who modified any other delegation that has been already made. So this application keeps a track of changes not only in Active Directory, but also the delegation changes made within the application, so that an administrator gets complete visibility. All right? So this is also very crucial. The last part of our discussion here is we are going to be talking about automating stuff in Active Directory. And as I said, I'm going to show you how to automate user provisioning and Active Directory cleanup. All right. So before talking about automating user provisioning, I thought I'd be discussing with you the Microsoft ways by which you can automate stuff in Active Directory. All right. So if you are creating one user account in Active Directory, Microsoft gives you this option. Do a right click, new, user, type in the first name and the last name of the user account, fill in the other attributes, hit next, key in a password, complete. This is just for one user account, and the user account is not complete because we have a lot of other attributes to be added for a user account nowadays. You have your Exchange mailboxes, your Office 365 account, Google Apps, your link settings, and home folders, group memberships, and whatnot. So you have a lot of things related to one user account. All right? So if this is going to be the case for one user account, Microsoft gives you an option to create multiple user accounts in Active Directory in one stretch. And the tool that they have given to the users to create multiple Active Directory accounts is this, right? And this is the Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, and Microsoft wants you to use this to create user accounts in bulk. Now, since I'm new to PowerShell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Microsoft some help with regards to a PowerShell script that would help me create user accounts in bulk. So I type the command, I call it the universal command for PowerShell experts, which is get help. So I type get help, and I'm trying to create a AD user account. So the commandlet for that is get help AD user. Alright, so here you go. So I'm trying to create a new AD user, which is the third commandlet. So get help, again I ask Microsoft for some help, new AD user. And Microsoft is helping me by giving this. Okay, so this is a sample script that Microsoft wants me to refer and create my own script based out of it. So this is going to be a bit complex to understand if you're new to PowerShell, and that's why most of us use Google in order to get better scripts. Just tweak the scripts and then execute it and get things done in Active Directory. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's completely fine, but there are some challenges that PowerShell is yet to address. Alright, so the scripts that we use are good, but they don't address some core challenges. So what are the challenges? If you have a PowerShell script and you're trying to create 5 user accounts, 4 of them get created successfully, and for some reason the 5th account failed, I'm pretty much sure that you wouldn't be getting the exact error message for the failure of the 5th account. Alright, so the confirmation messages that you get for success and failure, especially for failure, aren't very helpful when it comes to identifying the exact reason for failure and maintaining uniformity. So many organizations nowadays have this common uniform naming format for different departments. And if you're trying to achieve the same with PowerShell and at the same time handling duplicate accounts, most of the time handling duplicate accounts is a challenge when you're trying to use PowerShell, because PowerShell would either return with a red error message stating creation failure, an account already exists, so you'll have to then tweak the script and then start the creation all over. And it's a bit time consuming also. Forget about the learning curve involved, but if you're trying to create an Active Directory account, just an Active Directory account, that's fine. But nowadays you have all these components involved like Link, Google Apps Exchange, home folders, profile paths, whatnot. So if you're trying to do the same with PowerShell, that's going to be a bit complex. So what's the solution? You have it right here. So the application ADManager Plus has something called user creation templates, and as you can see on the screen, this specific layout helps you populate almost all the attributes for user accounts. So you create one template per department and you create it once and then make use of the template whenever you recruit a new user to that department. So if you are going to use the template can do a lot of things for you, like handling duplicates, performing a forest-wide check or a domain-wide check for your duplicates. It can help you apply a uniform naming format for your user accounts. You can even define your own naming formats. It can create an Active Directory account, create a mailbox for the account, and also enable Link or Skype for Business, and even create an Office 365 account. So we are talking about 360-degree account provisioning using the feature called user creation templates. Or if you already have an Active Directory user account with all the exact properties that you want, you can very well copy the user's property to the template. Alright? Now, the template would help you in manually creating users, but would this be of any help in order to automate the process of user creation? So how do we automate the process of user creation? If that's your question, the answer is right here. So once you have created a template, you can tell the application to create user accounts based on the template that you have defined. The only thing you have to create is an Excel sheet with the first name and the last name of the newly hired employees, and then probably save it in a network path. And you can very well tell the application to go to the network path, read the information from the file, apply the template, and create user accounts in Active Directory. And you can schedule this task to be run on any time interval that you want: hourly, daily, weekly, or even monthly, based on your hiring frequency. Now, when I say that the application is good at automating account provisioning, I know that some of you might be a bit worried. Some of you might say, hey, I don't want the application to be creating accounts in Active Directory, but it would be great if the application can create a request for user creation. I can then maybe log into the tool and then verify whether the properties are right and then execute the ticket. We give you that option too. So we have an option called implement business workflow right here, and if this workflow is enabled, the accounts will not be created in Active Directory. Instead, a request for account creation will be forwarded to you as a ticket from within the application. You then log into the application because you've already got an email stating that you have a request pending for approval. So you log into the application, have a look at the request. If you feel that the request is valid, you execute the request, else you reject the request. So that's for creating user accounts in Active Directory. Tip number 7, the last tip for this session. Finding out inactive users, finding out inactive computers. Now, one common reason, or people ask me, well, what is the big deal about inactive users in Active Directory? So one common scenario is you might have applications in your Active Directory that are licensed based on the number of users. So when you are paying for licenses, you better be paying for the active users and not the inactive ones. So you have to have a system in place to find out the active and the inactive users, and also the application should be smart enough to purge the inactive accounts or manage the inactive accounts so that they don't become a security threat. And that's when the automation again comes into picture. So cleanup policies can be different for various organizations, and that's why we have given the administrators the ability to define their own logic and then automate the logic. So for instance, within the automation part, we have something called automation policy. Now I have created a sample policy for our Active Directory cleanup, and as you can see on the screen, the first step that the application does is, as and when the application finds out that there are inactive users, it would move the users to a different OU, right? Step 1, move all inactive users who have not logged in for a period of 180 days to a different OU. Step 2, remove them from top level security groups, because who knows, out of 100 users, 3 users might be admin accounts and they have access to the top level groups or top level objects in your Active Directory infrastructure. So, and since they are inactive, it's always advisable to remove them from such top level security groups, and you can automate the process. Third step, you disable the account. So now you move the users, you've removed them from top level security groups that you want. This can be default or built-in group, or custom groups. Disable the account, excuse me, and then after 60 days, you can delete the accounts from Active Directory. Or after 120 days or 180 days, you can delete the accounts from Active Directory. All right. So when I say delete, it's going to be a delete of the Active Directory account, the Office 365 account, their mailboxes, home folders, profile path, and everything from Active Directory. So you can very well automate this process, and if you're not comfortable in deleting accounts, that's fine. You can at least disable them and then have them in a separate OU. Again, some of you might be worried. I don't want the application to be deleting stuff or disabling stuff in Active Directory without my approval. You can very well supervise and execute actions, and that's when again the business workflow comes into picture. So you define the policy right here. We have a report that's going to actually query the inactive users for you, and then once the application gets the list, and whenever the application is trying to execute the policy, now that you have enabled workflow, a ticket for user management will be raised to you. You can verify the ticket and then execute it if you feel that it's right. All right. So a quick summary of the stuff that we have seen in this seminar. We saw ways by which you can get information from Active Directory, something related to permission cleanup and management. And we also saw something related to non-invasive delegation model. How do you delegate actions without disturbing the Active Directory permissions? We also saw account provisioning techniques using templates, manual and automatic account provisioning techniques, and also automating the process of account deprovisioning. So if you have any questions, All right, so you can very well make use of the chat window, or you can drop an email to me. The email address is right here. It's going to be vivin.satyan@manageengine.com, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions or get the doubts clarified. So I hope you found this session informative, and if you need a copy of this webinar, we'd be more than happy to share with you. Thank you very much for your time. You all have a nice evening. Bye-bye.